I acted needy, or it feels like that, or she straight up told you that you're being too needy. You're having too many emotions. You're asking too much of her. And so I was needy and I pushed her away. Now what? That's what we're going to talk about here on the C Note Show today with myself, Jeff Allen, and Miss Cynthia Cruz. Cynthia and I are here to teach long-term monogamous relationship, how to grow depth and inspiration and safety and trust, and how to love and lead with mojo like a king to more intimacy and connection. And of course, how to avoid mistakes and solve problems along the way. So today we're going to talk about I acted needy and pushed her away. And I pulled some posts from Quora today and a quick 10-second video from TikTok. So I'm going to pop my TikTok cherry for you today. We're going to briefly go over the number one mistake most guys make in this spot, how to get intimacy back on track to bedtime fun, and how to help her trust you more, an easy mindset hack for that. And we'll speak with Cynthia about these things today, too, of course. So I pulled some posts from Quora. These are in jest, but also these are real people. Right. So here we go. Let's dive into a few of them. I searched needy husband and I found how do you deal with a needy husband? Okay. So this one here. How do you really have to deal with it? How can I deal with a spineless husband? This woman says. And she goes on to say, men like that are something you can't fix ever, unless you plan to put a spine in there and hold it upright for a lifetime. And this one had 70 upvotes. Before I jump to another couple of them, this video had, I don't know how many million views, 10 million views or something, 1.3 million likes, 12,000 comments, a 10-second little TikTok. Here we go. When he's just a little needy. Look at this. Now, this lady is strong, first of all. I'm gonna ask Cynthia. So why isn't this okay? Why isn't why isn't a man wanting to be with his woman okay? I mean, he wants to be with her when she's doing chores around the house. He wants attention. He wants affection from her. I don't know what she's making here, coffee or wine or something, pouring herself a
Probably
drink.
both.
Yeah, probably both at the same time. So what's wrong with this? What's wrong with him being a little bit needy? What does that feel like to a woman, Cynthia? Please.
Well, I think the ingest of this is literally showing that that ends up being like a load for her to carry, a heaviness that actually blocks her own energy, blocks her own energy for the world. And so it's kind of blocking her femininity. And the deeper level of this I see is, if, and this could be the woman on the other side, but if he in this situation doesn't have his own anchor, his own core, his own stone that he sets his life by, and is constantly trying to find that, trying to find safety and stability and grounding and purpose in her, uh, she will end up eventually feeling like something's being taken from her. It will drain the heck out of her, and what, even if she like gets into mothering mode and that gives her energy for a while, that won't last, and eventually she'll get burned out and brittle and probably pretty resentful, if not absolutely hateful.
Wow, yeah, very powerful. So thanks for getting us started. Let's do this. I want to share a couple more Quora posts, but I'm sure you're starting to have questions. So the guys that are here live, post questions in the chat. Raise your hand in Zoom if you'd like to come in. We'd love to talk with you about this and what questions you might have. So here's the next Quora post, Cynthia. So here's the title. Why does my husband want praise for everything he does? And again, this is along the line of a woman feeling that his man is needy or has no spine. Short story, I've cooked meals, cleaned the house, and washed clothes for my family for 25 years. I'm primary housekeeper. Once a week, I vacuum, clean our 3-bedroom house, wash clothes, clean the kitchen, and do the dishes. No one ever praises me or says thank you, especially my husband, who is clueless to the amount of unpaid work I do around the house. So we already see we already see the story and the framing here, right? Let's keep going. One weekend, we were having company over for dinner, but I was stuck at work. So she does all this and she works, which is interesting. So I asked him to clean the house. After our dinner party, I was cleaning up the kitchen. He came and asked if I noticed what a good job he did of cleaning the house. Yes, of course I noticed. And he says, but you didn't say anything. I was busy making dinner. The house looks great. But you didn't say anything, not even thank you. I've cleaned this bloody house every weekend for the past 25 years, and you want a ticker tape parade because you cleaned up one time? And he says, but I cleaned up just like you asked. At least you could do, the least you could do is say thank you. And she was speechless. My husband still has no clue how disrespectful and arrogant this demand for praise was, based on the fact that he only cleans up the house if I ask him to do it, and I do it without thinking. So, what does this feel like? First of all, the woman's point of view I find is interesting. So, if you want to make a point about that, if something comes to you, and what does this feel like? Why do you think that he's asking for praise here in terms of neediness? What does that come across to you?
Yeah, it's interesting because I do believe that a big part of relationship is the appreciation of seeing the other, seeing and honoring the other. And in this case, it's a parable, but it's also a demand from the masculine to be seen and noticed, which if she in relationship is not being seen and noticed in her feminine, that same request coming from the masculine is there's going to be an instinctual ugh in her. And actually I kind of got sick to my stomach as you were reading this. And then there's also going to be just so much anger in her because she, on the other hand, is not receiving the scene of the feminine and then has to provide that for him. And so it's going to feel in her mindset very unfair and disrespectful, like she said. And again, that patience will eventually wear out. It will turn into really deep-seated resentment and a huge turnoff to her of what he's asking, uh, coming from a place of almost yearning in him, which is showing that he doesn't have, again, his own anchor, his own stability, his own internal touchstone to be attached to.
Talk more about the being seen from a feminine point of view, masculine point of view, about the being seen. He's asking to be seen. Is she seeing him, and vice versa?
Yeah, and I would say it's just human nature that we all desire to be seen. And if we go into more polarizing energies, that is a deep hunger in women. It's not just to be honored or appreciated for what they do. There is a unfathomable desire to be known for who she is, seen for what her experience is, and understood. And often with women, if I'm working with them in coaching, uh, or you get to know a woman after a while, after all the surface complaints she may have or beliefs that she needs to be self-sufficient, eventually you're going to get to the core of her deep desire to be seen and known and witnessed, and often the excruciating pain of not experiencing that.
Yeah, absolutely. There's the skill of how to do that, how to see her. And then there's walls that she may have up. And these are things we all talk with men about. Come on in, please. Thanks for raising your hand.
I don't mean to be disrespectful or mean. Do men actually do that? I've never asked for praise. Like I've never said to my wife, "What, why don't I get respect from you because I make the money or I did the dishes or clean the house?" I mean, do men actually do that? I've never.
Well, I
I don't.
mean, yeah, first of all, but let me push back a little bit. Do you ever
Sure,
feel
sure.
like you're unappreciated where you would just love for her to praise you and say thank you? Something like this?
No, I'd rather have her treat me like she knows I do those things. Not she doesn't have to verbally say anything.
Sure, and that's great. And I mean, maybe you're a Zen monk about this kind of thing, and then great, that's
No,
awesome. But yeah, have you ever
I'm
felt
not.
needy for her praise?
I'm trying to think of a time where I did. I've always like she'll tell me, you work so hard and do this and that. And that's one of our arguments. I'm like, don't tell me that I work hard and I'm this or that. I said, I'm always like, just treat me like it instead of criticizing and accusing me of everything. Treat me like it with your tone and don't accuse me of things. Look at all the positive things that I do or the good things, and don't accuse me of those 5 or 10% of the times where I screw up.
Yeah.
You know, and let's say it's 50% of the time, still 50-50. I mean, um, I don't need her to tell me, "Oh, thanks for doing the dishes. Oh, thanks for cleaning the house." I don't need that. I want her to not accuse me or criticizing when I do clean the house is, did you vacuum right there? Because it doesn't look done. Because that's what she does. She doesn't. I don't need her to say thanks for vacuuming the whole house. I need her to stop saying, did you vacuum the stairs? Because they still look dirty.
Sure. Yeah. So what have you tried? What have you tried as far as giving her feedback about this?
Well, we've lived in this house for 13 years, and for the last 3 years, I haven't trimmed the bushes, and we have a ton of bushes along the side of the house. We're on a corner lot, and behind the house, mature. They're some of them are 8, 9 foot tall. Lilacs and snowballs and stuff. I stopped cutting them because for 10 years, I didn't cut them right, and you have to cut them 2, 3 times during the summer. And I was like, I just told her, I'm done cutting them. You can cut them. I've never gotten a thanks for cutting them, or thank you, or anything for that. It was always a criticism. They're too short. You cut them this way. You didn't cut them enough. And I got tired of listening to that. So I said, you cut them. So last 3 years she's cut them, and I don't say anything. I mean, I could blast her for. I mean, she's not a great housekeeper. She didn't. She grew up with nannies and people cleaning her house, and her mom never showed her how to clean house. I could just run shod over everything that's not dusted, and of course my mom was a stay-at-home mom, and I don't do that because it's disrespectful, and I appreciate her for what she does do, not for what she doesn't do. And that's all I'm asking, for her to do the same thing.
Sure. So Cynthia, what are you seeing behind with his wife, the criticism? It's not just she says nothing, it's that she criticizes. What are you seeing behind that?
Yeah. I so appreciate you sharing that. What you said made perfect sense, that she's like assumes good things, that there's almost this she has the wisdom and wherewithal and know-how to see the gold that you put on the table, and to not be in that kind of just one thing's off and she turns judgmental, almost like she's dishonoring the space, the agreement between the two of you, dishonoring what you give and how much you give. And this is so painful to hear, because I can only imagine what that feels like. So painful that you're just wanting the same, for her to treat you the same as you treat her. And part of this work is understanding that her way of making sense of things in her mind does not have the same kind of tenor and honor and good equates good that your more masculine brain does have. And so I'm wondering if there's even though you're saying you don't want praise, you're kind of wanting the equal. You're wanting her to give you honor. It's not praise, but you want her to be honorable to you. Right. In your relationship.
Yeah. And not to interrupt, but you hear people say people that are hard on themselves are hard on others. And I get that to a certain extent, but and she even mentioned this the other night, and she sees it in her siblings, in that they tend to be more. They tend to have, all of her siblings have targets. Like if it's not their wife or somebody, a coworker or a boss or a friend, they turn it towards their spouse, and so hates to do that, but it's just a habit or a family trait, something. And like I've told Jeff, her mom was a psychoanalyst, and they used to sit at the dinner table, and her mom would make them all say what they didn't like about each other. And so they feel comfortable, directly criticizing somebody. And her brother is a project manager, so he's got all these people that work for him. And when he comes to visit, he's always on the phone talking to this person, and he does the same thing. And I'm just like, he has these targets, and my wife's trying to get out of that. But that's why I found this men's group, was how to deal with being the target all the time. And I'm not always the target. And I told her the other day, when she mentioned she notices that she does it, is that I was joking with her because we were in a good place, and I said, honestly, I'm happy when you're targeting your siblings or one of our employees or a friend, because I'm not on the target. I'm not the bullseye for the day or the week or whatever.
Yeah, I hear you. So let me ask instead of just I don't want to be the bullseye, what's the opposite of that? What's the value between the two of you that you'd like to espouse? So why trim the, did you say lilac bushes? Why vacuum the house? What's underneath that? What's the core value that's important to you about those things for the two of you? Something positive.
I mean, they've got to get done. You know, everybody wants a clean house, and I don't mind doing any of it really. I don't mind, you know, wiping down toilets. I don't mind dusting. I don't mind vacuuming. Any. I just don't complain about that stuff.
Sure.
You know,
So
why has
why are those things important to you though?
I think it's good to have a clean house. Just for my own, if it's not all that clean, then I don't feel comfortable, you know, relaxing or trying to relax.
Yeah, so
So
it can be simple, like you enjoy it and it helps you relax.
yeah,
Why do you care to not criticize one another? Why is that important to you?
I don't think that's necessary because we're both putting in a lot of work to make things easy for each other, easy for, you know, our kids are out of the house now. It was easier for the kids, easy to have when they come over. You know, I try to do what I can when she's out managing the offices that she doesn't have to come home and do that. Just try and make it easier for her. And I know that's what she tries to do for me as well. And it's, I think what happens when she and I criticize each other is, you know, you end up in an argument. Well, you do this, it's tit for tat. And I don't want to do that, you know, but like I said, my bucket gets overflowed and I'm like, what do you mean? Did I not vacuum the stairs? Yeah. And even if she sees me vacuum the stairs, I didn't do it right. I didn't use the right head of the tool.
Right, yeah. I mean, you
And
got to give
so,
head the right way, to, right? So, but
yeah,
otherwise,
right.
what's the why? So I heard the
Yeah.
word I heard the word easy in there, but I didn't hear any other positive reason of why you don't want to argue or you don't want criticism going back and forth. So what's the positive reason you don't want to criticize each other?
Accepting her for who she is, accepting me for who I am. I don't know. Give me an example.
Sure. Well, no, it's important to you. You're giving examples, but I'm asking why. So why is it important that you support one another? Why do you care about that? What does it feel like?
Well, when I don't get criticized, because I don't mind not being praised, but trying to get to a point where I'm not consistently criticized or that I don't take it as criticism, although I can't imagine it not. So I don't get resentful.
So what's
Uh,
the opposite of resentful? Like what's the positive thing that would happen, do you believe, if it was good and easy?
Probably connection.
Okay, so there we go. Let's just keep it simple. So you said the word easy and you said the word connection. And you also said that you want to support one another. So that's
Mhm.
the value. That's the baseline. That's the fundamental common ground that you want to espouse and drive toward. Right. So we can get in the weeds, no pun intended, with the lilac bushes. We can get into the weeds of what we don't want and the
Mhm.
surface level of things, but really what you want in a relationship is ease and connection and honoring one another. Is that
Mhm.
true?
Yeah, I just brought it up because I guess I'm not around a whole lot of men where we talk deep, and that's why I appreciate you guys so much. In that, you know, I know other men get criticized and accused of stuff, and I'm trying to learn how to deal with it. But I've, I can't remember ever wanting praise from her for doing something good. When she does do it, I'm almost like, excuse me, you know, did I hear that wrong? You know, and that doesn't, because I feel like I'm already sort of solidified in knowing that I'm good and I do good things. It's that I don't want to be accused of vacuuming the whole stairs except for missing the bottom step, kind of thing. And so the other guys on here may want praise, but I don't feel like I'm needing praise. I want her to treat me like her missing the step and, oh, that's, you know, he'll get it next time or
Yeah,
I'll get it next time.
you want things to be easy and connecting and honoring.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So Cynthia, what's your opinion? And I talk with guys about what I'm about to say quite a lot, and I'm curious what Cynthia's opinion is on this. I'll say it bluntly, which is teaching her how to be nice.
Yeah. Thanks.
Teaching her how to be easy and connected and honoring in relationship because maybe she never saw that in childhood and such and such. We
Sure.
hear people only treat you as badly as you let them. Well, what if we don't? What's the opposite of that? Okay, we can teach her.
Mhm.
So what are your thoughts on teaching her to be easy and connected and honoring?
Yeah, and that's a very nuanced thing. And yet time and time again, these calls remind me of the healing nature and the healing power of what is an incredible masculine heart. And what you so clearly stated is that the criticism that comes from her also must be a self-criticism. And so anything that you're doing to teach her in relationship of, hey, this is how we honor actions together. This is how we can be in ease together. That's going to be a guidance for her of herself. And that's kind of a long road for her to have to travel through her whole body and whole system, considering how she grew up. But it sounds incredibly painful and excruciating to be inside of her skin if judgment and criticism is the leading energy for herself or for other. And I even wish for her something quite different, to learn something quite different from you.
It's like a control. I know she knows she's controlling. She's trying to let go of that a little bit, but you can kind of hear it, in how he talks. She's trying to let control, that control go, control of the conversation, control of the outcome,
Mm.
you know.
It's phenomenal that she seems to want that and is somewhat aware of that, and that
Right.
you're wanting great things for the both of you and for her, from what Cynthia was saying too. So if I were you, I would write down, by the way, this applies to every man watching this as well, right? No matter what is happening, what are the positive core values, or the one or two simple core values that you're trying to drive toward? You want to lead all of your whole family and yourself and her and the relationship toward. And those words for you that we talked about today are easy, connected, and honoring. So I would write those down, because those are words that you want to say when these kind of things come up, to help you guide to that watering hole, so to speak. Does that resonate with you?
Yes, yeah, yeah. And what Cynthia said as well. I mean, she's told me a lot. She's not as confident as she makes herself out to be. She said that since we first got together, and I'm like, well, why do you act like that? But
Oh, that's a
because
great question. Yeah, that's really good.
there's a bit of an arrogance across the family, and I love them all. They're great. They're great people, and but they do have this. I don't know what it is, but along with that and the control when things are said or said in a certain way, because I think I said this, sometimes it's not exactly what's said, it's how it's said, that it makes it sound like that's the end all, so
When she says it, it sounds like the end all.
well, like she knows, like there's no other way. It's
Yeah.
her way.
Do you ever chuckle a little bit on the inside when she does that?
Because of your help and the other group's help, I'm starting to.
Yeah,
We're
like she's so,
getting
like,
close.
aren't she's so cute when she does that thing. She's so cute when she acts like she knows everything. Isn't that so adorable? And now
Exactly.
I'm not saying mock her. Don't mock
No,
her.
I know.
Right.
No, I wouldn't. Yeah, I
Right.
don't
But
think
the
that.
story, yeah, exactly. But the story that you have is everything we've talked about. And you don't have to take it quite so seriously. And I know that's the path that you're on, and that's why you're here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Good stuff. I appreciate it. I'm going to press pause on you.
Sure.
Thanks, man. So Cynthia, talk a minute, and then we'll bounce forward to another core post here and some other things we have today. And I'd love to hear other questions you guys have or stories. So speak for a minute on what's said there. This kind of arrogance that she comes across with, maybe that she learned, this confidence, assertiveness, maybe are softer words. What is that? And he said that she's not really as confident or in control as she appears to be. She's admitted that. What is that about a woman in her spot?
Yeah, that speaks to me a little bit of probably when she was growing up and very little, any vulnerability on her part. When it was expressed, it was probably met with a lot of logic and analysis, if I'm connecting the story right. And so this confidence, this I know what's right thing, it feels like a false shield, which you've already alluded to. We could even call this a bit of a masculine shield that she learned to function with, either because she saw it modeled really, really well, or it became a defense mechanism. And she may have watched it without she could have watched even her mom do that without her mom even saying anything, but she just energetically picked up on, this is how I stay safe. This is how I keep from being criticized myself. And this is how I protect myself from, being taken advantage of and being in a vulnerable place. And so now she's in kind of this catch-22 of this false self, but she doesn't really know what other options there are. And right now, the option to be vulnerable is pretty, gosh darn, I'm sure, terrifying and unknown.
So a man like, or another man that has a woman who's shielding herself, who acts confident but maybe isn't. What is the healing way to see that as a man? How does she yearn to be seen regardless, whether it's her husband, which she may not may not like a lot in this moment, or any person or any man? How does she yearn to be actually seen through that or past that shell?
Yeah, it's almost like combining the tension of her opposites. Is there a moment she does show that does have some vulnerability to it? And can you authentically notice that, witness that, even say that to her as a strength? Maybe there's something that brings her to tears and she is a woman who's like, I shouldn't be crying. And you mention the word, her power in her tears, or how the strength of her ability to emote emotion that way is compelling to you. So she's kind of rewiring the story, taking away from the story that vulnerability is bad, soft, and not okay, and that actually vulnerability has incredible strength and wisdom and power in it, which is a huge message for her to receive, and probably a brand new one.
Yeah, phenomenal. And she may not believe it at first. So part of the belief needs to come from within you. Why is it actually powerful to that she share emotion with you? Why do you care about that? And not to be on a soapbox to her about it, but to see that in her. Yeah.
Yeah, and on the flip side, maybe your woman isn't even showing those windows yet, but you can still see her in her shielding. What is she doing that is creating something powerfully wonderful? uh, so even just illuminating how something that's really beautiful and great and wise about how she does operate in the world can serve to open that and soften that shield and allow her to allow you in.
Yeah. And so we've talked about this and taught this concept before. It's the 1-2 punch, so to speak, of praise, which is seeing something that she's currently doing in a quote masculine way, right? She's shielded, or she's tasking, or she's taking care of other people, and she may not open up in a soft way. So praising the shielding that she has in a truthful way, not mocking, not bullshitting her, but that she's showing up for people at work, that she's reliable to the kids, that she kicks ass around the house. These things that she's tasking can help soften that masculine shield. So she may open. Why does that encourage her to open more softly or in a more feminine way?
Yeah, that's a tricky one because it doesn't seem like a logical A plus B equals C. The feminine gets so hard energetically when she doesn't feel seen and understood. And so she's going to push and cling like fingers to an iceberg on the things that are so important to her, but she still doesn't feel like someone understands why she has to do it that way. And there's something really magical and unbelievable that happens, is because as soon as you give her some of that understanding and witnessing and seeing the beauty in it, the majesty, the power in it, all of a sudden her muscles can unclench a little bit, because yeah, it's the task, What's really behind it is the being known. And so what you're gifting her is a gulp of air of being known. And with that gulp of air can come like a fraction of relaxation with that. And those relaxation moments can start to build on one another. So there's a bigger, deeper, softer, more embodied breath in her.
Yeah, that's beautifully said. And the challenge there is to put down our sword first. We can't be attacking or counterattacking or resentful when we say that. So the work always begins with us. Next core post. This gets a little bit more harsh on this one, which I find kind of funny. Obviously, it's not funny for this person or this couple or this man or woman, but I chuckle at the pains of life because I think we have to sometimes. Why does my husband always seem to take my feelings and make them about his? Okay, that's a valid question. Here's what I chuckled about. My sounds like my ex narc husband. I love labels. I talk about that. My ex narc husband. He drove me nuts. Every time I tried to talk about my feelings, he would shut me down, saying I didn't care about his feelings. Very childish behavior, typical of alcoholics and narcissists. Okay, wow, I don't know anything about these people. Why they do it has baffled me for years. It's part of the crazy making word salad they throw at you because they don't grasp the concept that talking is communication. To them, it's competition. Okay, so there's some really good underlying concepts here, guys. So briefly, all of this, his word salad. So him trying to logic, what a mansplain, I guess, is always a fun way to say this. He's most likely dumping his emotions on the table. He's flooding. And she's saying he's throwing all these words at her because they don't grasp the concept that talking is communication, to them is competition. I'm not sure what she means by that, but obviously they're not hearing one another. Yeah. Refusing to acknowledge your feelings while implying that you are the one being insensitive is how they subdue and control. So regardless of the subdue, control, narcissist label, all of that, this man is jousting with her emotionally. And obviously it's not going well. I mean, they're separated, they're divorced at this point. But Cynthia, what is it about this word salad? What are you seeing between the lines here that we can learn from as far as making his feelings the prime issue in the conversation? Let's make this more simple. She's sharing her emotions.
Mhm.
She doesn't necessarily want him to share his.
Mhm.
What's that about?
Yeah, I mean, there is a kernel of truth in this. I don't agree with labels either, but that word competition. So we've got this human element of everyone should be able to share their feelings. And just because you're a man doesn't mean that you shouldn't be allowed to have them. And if a woman is trying to lay herself on the table and express something, and then it's really hard for her to move into then receiving and hearing the masculine if she doesn't feel like what she's put on the table has been seen or known. And if, she can encounter this with another woman too, if she does that and the other person always has something deeper or darker, or it's more intense, or you're not paying attention to my feelings, she will feel like the rug's ripped out from under her, that what she says doesn't matter. Literally what she says has no power, that other person cares nothing for her, and that it's all about them. And that could be just the way women communicate with each other in a different way. But what I really see is a calling out of the inner feminine to be heard and to be understood in what's causing her pain, even though there are a lot of women who take that instinctual desire and then misuse that and try to make someone else kind of the battering ram.
Yeah, the really difficult part there, of course, guys, is for us to not take things personally, and that's a whole that's why we do this work. It's a whole other conversation. Yeah, come on in, please.
I was just thinking about a story, and I have a note right here in front of me. It's not about the nail. It seems like it's not about the stairwell, and I had this very case. My wife, she's like, "You never fucking help me with the dishes." It's like, okay, well, it wasn't about the dishes either, and she was, she was apparently, and I wasn't aware of it, trying to be, trying to, be emotional with me or something, and I wasn't open to it. And, she had trouble being emotional with me or, sharing her emotions, and she still does. I'm working really hard to get that out of her, and it's just not happening. I mean, it's kind of too late now. I kind of feel like a lot of this is like, oh, wish I'd done that 5 years ago. But that's kind of where I've got sleep, and now I see things a little bit more clearly, and it feels like there's something. It's not about the stairwell.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, it's
says.
yeah, thank you. And of course, and I'm sure you would agree that it's really hard when you're not giving the right kind of head. I mean, you're not using the right head on the vacuum, and you're criticized about everything, your whole relationship and all this, and it's really tough. And where and I are going in one-on-one calls, and where all of us are going is, what do we want? Like, what's the core positive thing we're trying to drive toward? So now for you, maybe, as you said, maybe it's too late, maybe it's not, but what's the core positive thing you're trying to drive? What are you trying to drive toward right now that you didn't know before? What was something that was unknown to you that you now are aware of?
So one thing that I do, it's empathy. I wasn't aware that I mean, I think I remember my wife and I saying, we don't know how to be empathetic with each other. And so I like literally work on I say to myself when I hear a story, just like on Sunday, this woman's like, oh, my dad passed away. And I was like intentionally like, oh my God, that's so horrible. Like really like almost over the top, like just practicing empathy, because I didn't know how to do that before. And I think that's one thing that I would have been able to been like an unlock for my wife when it was still salvageable. And so I think that's the thing that I'm striving for in my work, and just, who I am, is to be far more empathetic to how people are feeling and what they're talking about. I mean, she's, many times said that, I tried, and you just, my grandpa needed to go into, the hospital, and you said, well, that sucks. And that was the end of it. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I could see how that might not be so nice to hear when, you're very close with your grandfather and you wanted my caring and feeling. And so that's kind of what I'm doing, intentionally right now with people I don't even really know or associate with much. Is just sort of practicing that as being someone that's, better able to understand and like unlock the emotions of the woman I'm speaking to. And I do this with women, not necessarily as much with men, but
yeah, that's well said. Appreciate it, man. Good to see you.
Yeah.
We'll drive toward the end of our call here today. One more from Cora. This one's a little different. Maybe I'm the crazy one, but I would kind of like a husband who is a touch needy without being codependent, she says. It just tells me that he's sensitive, not a bad thing at all, and trusts me enough to be honest about his needs and what he needs from me, and vice versa. As long as his needs didn't take over the entire relationship, it's nice to think about having someone want to cuddle up with me and actually want my company. The grass is always greener, I suppose. And I love this sentiment. That's nice. And what I see here is she's not in a relationship. and this concept of wanting a man, this is a whole conversation for another time that I can have with Cynthia on here as well, that a woman wants a man to be sensitive, but then what does that really look like? Or what does she really want? What really turns her on instinctually in the relationship, especially for a level 3 type of relationship, which we'll talk about again another time, certainly. So we'll save that one. So don't make the number one mistake most guys make here, which is trying too hard, trying to push toward a resolution. This is something that we talk about all the time. I talk with my guys about, well, what does trying too hard mean? If you're curious about that, absolutely reach out to us. How to get intimacy back on track. This is where I was driving with, and we were talking about today, of where are you wanting to go? And you have to go there within your own heart, within your own soul and your own life first, regardless. So you have to bring fun into your own life and heart first. And that's one reason why we're here, is how to get the roadblocks of that out of the way. Right, guys? And then how to help her trust you more is the theater in your mind. So the story that you're telling yourself, your thoughts about the vacuuming, your thoughts about her criticism, your thoughts about her masculine shielding is the theater in your mind, the story you're telling yourself. Can you chuckle about it? Can you have compassion for yourself and her in that situation? Can you practice driving toward fun and ease and honoring? Or do you, lash back, pull out your sword and fire resentment off? Right? How are you thinking? What's the theater in your mind? And certainly this is about frame, safety, and leadership as we teach the levels 1, 2, and 3 of relationship. And certainly if you want to reach out to us or find out more of our stuff, greatmenmovemountains.com. And we're on YouTube. We have hundreds of videos on YouTube, Great Men Move Mountains. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks, Cynthia. See you guys next week. Ciao.